Has an Exit podcast with host Teddy Tarantino. New episodes every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget to subscribe.
All right, hey, welcome to Hell Has an Exit. I'm your host, and today I got Dominic L. I've known Dom pretty much since I've been clean. Well, maybe a little after I got clean, because you got clean like a year after I did, right?
Yes.
And Miami native. You even worked for me for a short time.
Yeah.
When you first started working in treatment, you were one of our first therapists. And I know you got a really interesting story. I love to see that, you're back in school and almost done with your master's degree. I love to see any addict go back to school. And, I know your story, but, like on the show, like I was telling you, this is like the only time that I really get to hear people's like whole story, like where they're really from, what really happened to them. So
sounds good to me.
Where are you from?
Originally, I was born in Jersey City, New Jersey. My father was Italian. My mother's Cuban.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was screwed from the get-go.
So you're Italian, Cuban?
Yes.
Okay.
So I came to Miami like at the age of like 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
And like I was raised in Miami. There was a time my mother, because my mother would like bounce. My mother's a woman that she's Cuban. She came from Cuba in 1959. She's been married 7 or 8 times, She bounces around like that, and like she would always like say that she was running away from our father because he was I don't know, he was an Italian, like pretty rough guy.
Mm-hmm.
Never against her, but my mother made a lot of money in the 70s, and she sent me and my sister to live with my older sister, which was born in Cuba too, and like we lived in Mexico for like 9 months. I didn't even speak Spanish,
Wow.
So
you didn't speak Spanish growing up?
No.
You speak Spanish now?
No. When I was in the 3rd grade, I was sent to Mexico. Like I didn't speak Spanish.
Okay.
And then I started learning. Like I would, light, door, and stuff like that. And then in Mexico, like they didn't speak English. So I came back from Mexico, like around 8 years old, and like I spoke like a little Mexican, and
so your Spanish is from when you were in 3rd grade in Mexico. Okay.
That's where I started.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember we went, so I had to repeat the 3rd grade again. So now I was like a little older than the rest. And then we bounced around. Like I never spent more than 2 years in elementary or junior high. And we moved to Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And then my mother had got married, and we went to Las Vegas, and we stood there for 3 years in Las Vegas. And there I became, I got introduced to, drugs there.
Mm-hmm.
I was 10 years old when I went to Las Vegas. And
what drugs did you start doing immediately?
Marijuana,
mm-hmm.
and alcohol. And then I used that, and my hangout was at a roller rink, and they had a half pint.
Half pipe? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You used to skate?
Yeah.
Really?
And I was like into that.
Oh, wow. So was I. That's so funny.
I had long hair. I had an earring.
Mm-hmm.
I dipped Copenhagen,
Mm-hmm.
This was, now I'm about 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And there, I never had no rules, no regulations, nothing. We free.
Mm-hmm.
So I started getting in trouble in the 4th grade, 5th grade. Well, I was getting in trouble in kindergarten, in 1st and 2nd in Miami, but like it became more, seeing the principal's office, getting suspended, getting paddled. Back then they would paddle you. Today I think
yeah, it's child abuse.
Yeah, the child abuse DCF was.
You think it's child abuse?
Listen, if it depends. Like I would get paddled for the most ridiculous things.
Okay.
I mean, talking loud in class. Hey, go to. It was
and
either paddled or suspended.
Okay.
So I would always get suspended, and then my mother. I remember this is now. I'll jump up to like the 7th grade, and she was like, "Yo, no more suspensions." So then it was either suspended or paddled. So I would take the paddling.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't. It wasn't that I was bad at school or something like academic. It was that I didn't want to participate.
So you were always smart. You're just a knucklehead.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not like you weren't good in class or anything like that.
No. So back then, 11 years old, like I'm smoking little cigarettes every now and then,
Mm-hmm.
Smoking weed. They had this thing called hashish. That was. My mother had her husband, like he smoked weed, you know, and he had the marijuana in the refrigerator. I would take that too. Friends of mine, because in Las Vegas it was different. I believe like at the end of the 70s, the early, 1980, 81. So I became involved with the skating. So then over there they had skateboard parks. So I would go, I would be in the skateboard parks, and I also would do it with bikes.
BMX.
Yeah, with the bikes.
I never knew that. It's like, that's why I love the podcast, because like I couldn't probably know you forever, and I would never know that.
A lot of people don't know that about me.
Wow.
Yeah. So what they do today on skates and on BMX, like it's a whole different thing they got going on. Because we would do tricks and everything, and then it was I don't know if it was the area Las Vegas, but Las Vegas, and back in in the 70s, early 80s, the drug was more like people were doing them, and at a young age, and usually from the parents. So we came back to Miami, and I had I came to Miami, and I was back in the 7th grade. And in the 7th grade now it's, I believe it's like 82, 83. So I went to the school in Miami called W.R. Thomas. And now there's houses, it was just the school, and it was all like woods, like then they started building. And there I really didn't want to go to class. I was in this thing called SCSI. So they would get, it was get paddled. Sometimes I didn't have to go to class. I just had to go to the special class, where we had to just do whatever assignments they told us to do, and you just didn't participate with the other students. That was the 7th grade. I left because my mother, when we went to Las Vegas, she rented out the property that I own today. So she rented it out, so they had a lease, so we couldn't go there, so we had to move to Sweetwater in Miami. And once the lease was over, I went back to our house, to our property, and I was in the 8th grade now. And I remember I went to the school Ponce de Leon, so they had that one off of US 1. And my mother had opened up a bar. This was 83, 84, 85. And now the drug, the drug era was huge in Miami. There was a lot of cocaine. There was a lot of freebase hadn't come out yet here. It was up there in New York. But there was a lot of that drug. And, I was a 14-year-old that I did a lot of it, because a lot of my friends, their parents were drug dealers. So there was access. It was, my mother's bar. I gravitated to the people that came from Cuba in 1980, Mario boat lift, and I looked up to them. They had gold teeth, they had tattoos everywhere, Spanish, words in Spanish. I started getting those as well. I'd never been to Cuba, but I have these Cuban prison tattoos that say all kinds of things, because I was attracted to it.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah,
because you're a Cuban American. You weren't from Cuba.
But everyone thought, and I would even speak broken English.
Wow.
Let me tell you something, man, I'm born here. You know what I'm saying? Because I wanted, because a lot
you
of
want
my
to fit in.
Yeah, a lot of my friends they had came in
and broken English.
Yeah, and they started learning how to speak English. So my mother ran the bar, and she would, the bar would close at 3 a.m. However, sometimes it wouldn't close. She'd turn off the light, she'd lock the door, and people would come in through the back, and the party would go on. She made plenty of money, and now I was getting more involved with the drugs. So now, I would hang out at the bar, and I would hang out with the drug dealers. I thought they were older. They were in their late 20s, early 30s. Some were a little older. Everyone had pistols there. It was like, I don't know if you remember. You were probably a lot younger, but maybe you remember. The Cuban. They had gold chains like Mr. T. They had a bunch of them, rings on every finger, bracelets. They had the Rolex, the Geneva watch. They carried a little bag, and they carried the gun. And it's like even the cops were getting involved in that.
Yeah.
Now I started doing, criminal activities, and I was practically raised in the juvenile detention center off of 27th Avenue and 33rd. That was like my second home, because the addiction started, getting a little heavier, because now I started freebasing, and
How old were you when you started freebasing?
14 and a half, coming up on 15. Now I have a girlfriend pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah, she's 14, I'm 15.
Wow.
You know, when the baby's born, she's 15, I'm 16. My addiction progressed, my crimes progressed, and like they tried me like an adult, you know, and they sent me to the Dade County Jail in Miami on the 10th floor. That was the juvenile floor.
What was it like?
That was I could tell you
The worst
place I've ever been, and I've been to a lot of places. I've been to prison 3 times, and this.
They always say the juvenile is just like so off the chain.
And I felt comfortable, you know, but it was bad.
What was so bad about it?
Well, you could see. I mean, I was talking about it the other day, as a matter of fact, and they had A wing, B wing, C wing, right? And then A wing and B wing, B1 and B2, that was confinement. Yeah, I spent some time there. I think it was B4. They had the Miami River Cops. I don't know if you ever heard of them. You can look them up. The Miami River Cops were Miami police officers that were killing dope boys, drug dealers, and they were taking their drugs and they were selling them themselves, and they got arrested for that.
Okay, so it was like a gang
of Miami
of cops.
And they call them the Miami River Cops because they were throwing the bodies into the Miami River.
Wow.
Off of 12-5, yeah.
Catch your name.
They were up there and we would see them and stuff, and I was the guards.
They were in prison?
They were in jail
With you guys?
Yeah, but that was the 10th
You could
floor.
see them.
They were like protective custody because that was like lockup.
Yeah.
They were in the B wing.
Okay.
And when I was in confinement, then you could see them. You know. So the guard, the officer station was in the center of the wing. So when they would bring you in, they would open up this big sliding door. They would throw you in there, and they would close it, and they would leave. Anything would happen there. And people were getting beat up, jumped. Some people were getting raped. You know, there was people there for murder. There were kids.
Kids raping other kids?
14, 15-year-olds, 16. I was already 17. I actually turned 18 years old on that 10th floor. I went there twice. When I turned 18, they sent me to the adult floor on the 4th floor. There they had a big tray of RIP, you know, which is rolling cigarettes and tops. And they had cigarettes. I saw people smoke freebasing in the cell. I said, "You're allowed to smoke crack here?" And they were like, "No, he brought it in." And like it was like normal. It was pretty loose there, but it was more. You know, it wasn't like it was on the 10th floor. You know, at first I was a little, you know, in fear. Oh, I'm going with the adult. And listen, it was the
adults were way more chill.
Yeah, it was like relaxed there, you know.
Yeah.
And then I remember getting out, and a friend of mine, which is one of my best friends today, Alex F., which he just celebrated 19 years clean.
Nice.
And I remember coming from the 10th floor. I turned 18. I went to the 4th floor, and I finally got out. This was almost a year of being incarcerated.
Now, what would you get locked up for? Was it selling drugs, violence, guns?
So I got locked up from everything. This is the juvenile time. So when I'm in juvenile, I'm getting for burglary. I'm getting for grand theft auto a few times, aggravated assault, a bunch of possessions, but it was mostly burglary, auto theft, and possession as a juvenile. But then what happened when I was a juvenile, it was the 4th of July weekend. This was 1987. And there was a fight in the gym, and I sucker punched this one kid, and it broke his jaw. So that's why they sent me to the county, you know, because of the background. And then I remember Alex picking me up at my house with another friend of mine, and my mother's like, "No te vayas, don't go." He said, "No, because Coronas had just came out." And
beer?
I remember seeing it on the news, and I said, "I'm gonna have one of those." They had it with a little lime, and I'd never seen one. You know, I watched it on the news.
Wow.
Yeah, on the commercials. So I was intrigued by it, and I said, we went to, I don't know if you remember that gas station, Amoco. We used to call it Amoco, but like they don't have them no more. And they had them there. So I remember having it. So when I would get out, friends of mine gave me cash money. They gave me drugs. They gave me weed. They gave me cocaine. You know, it was like my welcome package.
Yeah, it's like a celebration.
Come home. Because I came home. And I remember there must have been about 15 of us, 20 of us. And I went inside the gas station. I was trying to sell something in there. And when I came outside, I remember there was a cop that went by in Coral Way. So I put my beer down because, you know, I didn't want to get arrested for drinking in public. So I put the beer down. And he came, he went around the block. And when he came, he told everyone to scoot over. And he pointed at me and he called me. And I was like, me? I'm the one who just got out, you know. I'm not doing nothing. I was by myself. I didn't have the beer in my hand. And he put me against the car and he opened up my cigarettes. And I had the cocaine in there. He threw the pack up there. He searched me. I had the bag of marijuana in my sock. I stashed it in the police car. After we got to the station, he told me to step aside. He moved the seat.
He found it?
He said, what is this? I said, oh, that's not mine. He said that he searched the car every time he, you know, made an arrest. And what happened, they gave me possession, which later drops. And it just, you know, I just kept living to use and using to live, you know, bottom line. That was part of my life. Get high, do criminal activities, go to jail, take a break in there, hang out in there, meet new people that were doing more crimes, come back and do it. It was just a spiral. It was my life. You know, for over 25 years I was doing this. So that was in my, you know, 18. When I go into my 20s, so I go to state prison for the first time. I get arrested for an armed robbery now, robbing a farm store. You know, that you pull up and you order a
CVS?
No, farm store.
Farm store, okay.
There was something just happened on the news recently with one. But you just drive up, you order, let me get a beer, let me get cigarettes, let me get a gallon of milk. They saw everything there. It was open 24 hours a day.
It's like a drive-through.
Yeah, like a little grocery store.
Yeah, like grocery store, yeah.
So people would order by here and people would order by here. So I ended up robbing one in Sweetwater. They gave me 2.5 years.
How much money did you get?
At that time, I didn't get nothing. I didn't. He closed the thing. I tried to take the
cash register?
Yeah, he ran out, so I tried to take the cash register.
And the cops already came?
The cop saw me outside.
No.
Me and my friend looked suspicious, so he went around the block. Now, I'd seen him, but I said, let me take the register. I tried to leave with it. It had a big cord. It fell down. I didn't take nothing. And they still gave me attempted armed robbery, and they gave me 2.5 years.
What, you had a gun?
A knife.
And even with a knife?
With a knife. That's armed robbery.
Armed robberies with a knife too, huh?
You can have a screwdriver. You can have a rock in your
Armed.
hand. You're armed. You know
A rock in your hand. Yeah, that's true, I guess. What's the other one? Forced? What's the without a robbery? Without a
strong arm robbery.
Strong arm robbery.
I've had many of those too.
Yeah. Okay.
You know?
Okay. So you go to prison.
So they give me 2.5 years. I meet some people. I get welcomed there. We're in this place called Liberty Correctional Institution. It's in Bristol, Florida. This is 1992.
What's prison like in 1992?
I'll tell you the truth. It was more like, it's not like in the movies, like especially if you're Hispanic. Like I lived there pretty well, you know. I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff go on there now. Not everybody lives there okay.
Peacefully, yeah.
Yeah, just people that get robbed. I mean, back then there was no controlled. You could walk from the dorm to go to the chow hall, right, to go have breakfast, and when you're doing that at like 5 a.m, it's dark, and it can be cold, especially if you're in the Panhandle, and people would get robbed. They'll wait and they'll yoke you out. They'll take your whatever gold chain. Back then we had cash money on us, which they stopped that. And there was a thing called CRD. It was a control release. They gave me 2.5 years. I did 5.5 months.
And they did work release or something.
I did nothing. They gave me 6 months aftercare. I beat that. It was slaps on my hand. So what I discovered, when I went to prison the first time, and I thought it was okay. What I saw was this was like summer camp for like the poor. We played shuffleboard, softball, football, soccer. We played with the horseshoe thing, against the pole, bocce ball. I saw a lot of people, people were getting in relationships there. They would hold hands. They would kiss. They would, get caught fucking in the shower. And people were doing that. And there was a lot of people that a lot of people that just aren't going to see the street again. You know, there were some people that were going to see the street again. They were still living that life. You know, and so I got out. I continued getting high, finding ways and means to continue. So
now, do you think you're a drug addict?
At this time, listen, even when I came to recovery, right? Even this time, like I never classified myself as a drug addict or as an alcoholic, right? I classify myself as a drug and alcohol abuser. That's what I said. That I abused.
Yeah,
it.
you're not like an addict. It's just like a lifestyle.
So I was reading this book this morning, and it was talking about what do we say, you know, in my mind, what do I classify, you know, what do I see as a drug addict? It's usually somebody skinny, which I was always skinny, long greasy hair, dirty, panhandling, living in the street, homeless, you know, maybe
Track marks,
shooting dope, you know. That's what, you know, a lot of us, you know, is considered a drug addict. And I didn't have that. Like I was never homeless. However, I lived in my mom's house. I lived at her house, you know. I was basically homeless, I guess.
Yeah.
You know. And
yeah, they would be like, "Do you own a home?"
No.
You're homeless.
Listen. If I fast forward this, because in reality, I never paid a cell phone because I never had a cell phone. You know, and I came in contact with these things called the brick. There were Motorola's. There were the cell phones that first came out. And I never had a phone. You know, I would sell it. But well, when I come to see the life that I lived and the time that I wasted, you know, no education. What I was trying to say was I never had a phone, you know, like pay a phone bill, electricity bill, a rent, a mortgage, just nothing. I never bought my own clothes. Whatever my mother bought me, whatever a girlfriend bought me, that's what I wore. It wasn't like I had you know, I wasn't into that, you know. So I started learning how to, you know, how to become a man when I came to a program, you know, a program that has the ability to save and change lives, which a lot of people, you know, like, listen, I was introduced, and I didn't know if it was AA, NA, whatever. I just don't know. I know it was a program that they told me to go to.
12-step meeting. A
12-step program. They took and they put me like to live there, and I didn't know what it was. They talked about this thing called HHE&x. I didn't know what that was. All I know is I would go there, I would stay there a few weeks, I would leave, I would get high. I have a lot of friends of mine that I grew up with that you know, they had opportunity just like me, and a lot of them are dead. A lot of them are in prison. Like I got close friends of mine that they didn't even do things that I did, and they continue to use substance, and like they got life sentences. I know a couple people that are on death row, and they've been on death row for the past 18 years, you know, and I'm talking about people that aren't even bad people. They've made bad decisions, you know.
When did your addiction start to, like, what was your 20s like versus like your 30s?
It progressed. Yeah, from teens. I mean, I did bad things when I was a teen. I did a lot of drugs when I was a teen. In my 20s, remember, that became a lifestyle for me. Going to jail, like I went to prison when I was 22. Skinny little kid. You know, I was a little kid. I had gold permanent teeth.
When did you get perms?
I was 16.
You got perms at 16?
16.
That's crazy.
I came to remove them in recovery.
Yeah, I remember when you got them removed.
I think I was already 42 or something when I got them removed. You know?
Yeah. So, I remember when you got them removed.
Yeah. These, what I got now, like I paid a lot for. You
know?
I got implants and everything. And
wow.
I was afforded, you know, the ability to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
And the change, you know, took a long time, even in recovery. Because I can tell you one thing. When I came to recovery, I brought the streets in with me. And what I learned in the program, I get to bring it out to society. You know, because they talk a lot about becoming a responsible, productive member of society. And I struggle with that, you know. To this day, I still have, you know, I thinking that if I don't change certain thoughts, you know, it becomes behaviors.
Yeah.
and I know I can use it again. I'm not confused. I know I have another relapse in me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'm gonna have another recovery.
Mm-hmm.
But thank God for the men and women that I see regularly. That some of them even make me live like an angel in active addiction, and they continue to accumulate clean time.
Yeah.
You know.
When did you start thinking about like maybe I have a problem or getting clean? Like when did you start giving it like a real try?
Well, I've been told to get clean. I've been doing this from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I remember 1999. They once again via treatment center. It's like, what are they gonna tell me this time? Like, I didn't want to be there, so I understand. When people don't want to be in treatment, like I didn't want to be there. I definitely didn't want to stay clean. I came, I would go get some help to shut my mother up, to get a girlfriend back. It was never to stay clean, never. I mean, and all the, for over 25 years, I went to jails and institutions. From 1984 until I got clean in 2010, I never missed a year. That time that I had 19 and a half months clean, like I relapsed, I went back to jail, and I went to 5 institutions in 3 months.
Wow.
I came back 2010, right, February 1st, and like I just haven't looked back.
Mm-hmm.
I just keep moving forward.
What do you think it was about that time getting clean that you stuck with it? Like, that's what people always ask me, and
I'm glad you asked that because I share it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember my friend Alex that I told you, that he's like a brother to me. So when I was in the treatment center again, and I remember this is, before I relapsed with the 19 and a half months clean, and like, I'm sure my mother came to visit me at the rehab.
Mm-hmm.
It was a visiting night that you have to do a Al-Anon group, and then you get a visitation for, I think it was 2 hours. And I remember my mother, I told her, bring my car. I had a Cadillac, Sedan DeVille, right? White, pearl white, leather interior, burgundy. I loved it. But it was full of bullet holes. Real bullet holes, not those little sticky things.
Not the fake ones. Yeah.
I had real, and I was bragging about it, and I was laughing about it. I was by this time I think I was 38, 39 years old. I was a big like a big baby, and I was bragging about it.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy Alex, he was there, and I was looking at him. He was huge, and I know him as being skinny. He was bald headed, huge, and I remember him skinny, curly hair. And I looked at him, and I identified him because he had a little scar here. And I said, Alex? He said, yeah. He told me he had 4.5 years clean.
Wow.
And he had it worse off than me growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him, and I said, you get high on the weekends? And he told me, no, man, I'm abstinent from ALL.
Mm-hmm.
And he started picking me up, at the place I was at, taking me to meetings, taking me for lunch, breakfast. We would go to early meetings. And it was just different, and then he introduced me to a lot of men, and I just started meeting more people in the program.
Yeah, I always tell people it's like you could go to all like the fanciest treatment centers, all that stuff, but like there needs to be a person that like, puts that hope in you, that like you really believe them,
So I talk about it all the time, and I tell them there has to be a identification.
Mm-hmm.
I need to identify. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the substance, but I got to identify, with the person, with some of the feelings, with some of the behaviors, some of the lifestyle. Because at the beginning, if you didn't go to jail or you didn't, listen, I talked about it the other day. If you went to prison, but you didn't go to a certain prison, I said, he's soft. He went to a soft camp, If you didn't do the drugs that I did, if you didn't find ways and means to get, get the money, if you panhandle, I wouldn't even mess with you.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it all, and I put my life at harm, and I've harmed, many people because I always wanted to get that one more.
Mm-hmm.
And I work in the field, and I tell people, because we have this saying that says, one is too many, and people chant out 1,000 is never enough.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds cute. Addicts wrote that, but one is too many, period. Because from what I read, it says that it's the first one that I put in my body that sets the deadly cycle all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Not the 10th one, not the 20th one, not the 100th one, and definitely not the 1,000th one. It's the first one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that complete abstinence concept is like such a game changer for people like us, because it's like prior to that we're trying to manage and whatever, and it's kind of like you can't have a little bit of a gunshot. You know what I mean? It's like once that bullet is out of that chamber, it's out.
That's it.
So it's like before then, I never understood that I couldn't do anything. But if you don't pull the trigger, like a bullet ain't gonna come and hit you. You know what I mean? So it's like the same thing when I got clean, where I was like, wow, if I just don't do any drugs, I'll have total control. Because I always felt like I was weak or whatever. But it's like, you know, even like that with food right now, you know, sometimes like my girl will be like, oh, you know, you want to try a piece? And I'll be like, no, I can't. You know, it's like once I had, like she did it the other day, like there's a cheesecake. I was like, no, I don't want no cheesecake. And I had a little bit and then I just ate the whole thing. You know, so it's like it's easier for me to abstain than to do a little bit. I don't want to do a little bit of anything, to be honest with you.
So what I've learned throughout the years I've been here is that abstinence is the first thing we do.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't pick up. Now, if you want to get better on the inside, there's some footwork that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can relate to what you just talked about. The disease of addiction manifests in many other areas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the eating. And when I eat well and when I work out, like I can see the difference.
You feel good too.
I can see it, you know, and then I quit smoking cigarettes and I just feel better, you know. Now, it takes that one little, that they say you can have a cheat day. Listen, I cannot have a smoke crack cheat day. You know, I can't have a cheat day even with that because my obsessive compulsive, you know, way of being, it's just I want more.
What struggles did you face when your first couple years clean?
So the struggle that I had is like I already knew that I was already a 40-year-old man. I was an adult. Like still, mommy giving me everything, helping with everything, you know. And it was like I felt like I was okay. And I remember having people telling me, "Yo, why don't you get a job?" And I was like, I don't need to. You know, why are you trying to date every woman that looks at you? Why are you hating? And then I started taking, you know, and like I started taking these suggestions because one of my friends, I wanted to punch him in the shit. Right, there's a guy named Eugene. He has 30 years clean.
Yeah.
He's my age, you know, and I'm like, what, you know, what? Why don't you just mind your own business, you know? And then I started having, you know, maybe I should get a job.
Yeah.
Know? Maybe, you know, and I struggle with, because, you know, I come, you know, my background, and I wanted to always, well, I'm this criminal that they labeled me as, you know, the court systems. Who's going to hire me? You know, and I'll tell you one thing, ever since I stepped foot in the, in recovery, someone has always given me the opportunity. Like my first therapist job, you know, like you gave me the opportunity, you know, and not knowing, just getting certain, you know, I wasn't qualified. Today I can tell you I'm qualified, certified, and you know, a lot of
and
change.
with the experience,
you know, and not only the experience of the using experience and the thoughts and the feelings that a lot of my clients have. Like now I'm you know, I have the education experience.
What was going back to school like? Because to me that's like, you know, like when I got clean, I was always like, you know, I used to think like being a gangster was like selling drugs. Now it's like when I see people go back to school that haven't been to, like my friend Corey, he was out of school for like 20 years. And like he went back to school and he's getting his master's too. And to me, I'm like, you know, like that's gangster.
So I'll tell you this. I spoke to Corey the other day. and I believe he already has the master's.
He got his master's.
Yeah,
right? He got his master's.
Yeah,
that's
so
crazy.
he's a therapist.
Wow.
I call him every now and then because like when I don't know what to do, I'll ask.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't know what to do, where to cop, how to open up a window, how to, you know, like I asked people, you know, how to self-destruct. I asked people, you know, how I can get better. And remember, going to school already, you know, I got listen. So I'm gonna tell you a little story. So when I come to the I'm going to these groups, 12-step program. A lot of people are, you know, they're already getting educated. They went back to school. Some were getting their GEDs, some were getting their associates, some were getting their bachelors, masters, and even PhDs.
Yeah.
So I started finding that interesting. You know.
Yeah. So to me, seeing drug addicts get PhDs was like being in the hood and seeing like the dope boy get like a Mercedes.
Yeah.
To me, like seeing people get college degrees was just as cool. Like, cause you would see these people for years And you'd see them struggling. You see them get a little car. Then you see them get a little job. And they go to school. And like 7 years later, 8 years later, they have a doctorate, their PhD.
For some, it is a process,
it's
you know?
Oh, yeah. I've seen people, it took Corey, 8 years?
I should have already graduated, but that's not my primary purpose either.
Yeah.
But then again,
But you stick with it.
Of course. So what happens, people have helped me. I don't know, I ask. I even emailed the professors, and I let them know a little bit about me, where I come from. I give them a little background. So sometimes they're like, well, yeah, he's a little older guy now. So I'm going to tell you, when I came here, people were getting all that education. I didn't have none. I had an 8th grade education. It was probably lower than that. So somebody told me, why don't you go for your GED, And I said, I don't know. But, that was intriguing me. It was interesting. So I signed up in Miami-Dade College. And they gave me an ID, and I was smiling, and I had my gold teeth, showing. They gave me a bumper sticker. I put that on the back of my car. So now I'm coming to these 12-step program meetings, early.
Yeah.
I'm staying a little later. And I'm showing people. I'm saying, check this out. They go, what? You're in Miami-Dade? Oh, my God. Give me a hug. And there were some smart addicts who would say, what? You go to Miami-Dade? What's your major? I go, look at this one with the major. I'm getting my GED. Okay. Progress, not perfection. And I struggled with certain things, especially math. I thought I was good at counting money. But they started putting in these math problems, they put letters in front of the numbers.
They put the alphabet with the numbers.
And it screwed me up. I never would.
Me too.
They didn't teach that in 8th grade.
It
was 9th grade stuff. So I would ask for help. And I eventually got my high school diploma. I was already in Miami-Dade. I got my associate. I went to Florida International University. I got my bachelor's. And I'm a current student right now at Florida Atlantic University, getting my master's degree, my MSW in social work. And thank God for the men and women that I've seen in this process that have paved the way for me. And then I've seen a lot of people like you, my sponsor, get clean young. So my sponsor got clean at 24. And I'm like, he talks a lot about jails, institutions, use it for a long time. And I'm judgmental, and I'm like, how many jails and institutions
could you possibly go
to? How much drugs, how long did you, I got clean at 40. I didn't miss a year from 84 until I got clean. Sometimes I did a few years, and it's like, how about him and a lot of others surrendered a lot earlier. They were a lot more brighter than I was. As they said, enough is enough. And that's why they're on a different level, outside of recovery because of the direct result of the program,
What I always tell people is, if you had a personal trainer, you wouldn't be like, well, how fat were you before you got in shape? Because it's like, he's going to tell you the same thing anyone else is going to tell you. It's about, are they going to, do you have a good relationship with them? Do they answer your calls? Is your personal trainer pushing you? But any personal trainer is going to tell you to do push-ups, sit-ups, and cardio, and to
eat right.
And to eat right. Everybody's going to tell you the same thing. But there's just some personalities that you click with, that the way that they explain it, or they might motivate you a little bit more. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to do the work.
I love it. At the end of the day, it is up to me. Because a lot of times, even like I was saying earlier, when I start going to the gym, I eat proper, I work out, and you can see the difference. I eat one bad thing, and my stomach comes out quicker. As I get older, the metabolism. How would you say?
Metabolism.
Yeah, it's not the same as in my 20s. My teens.
Yeah, a lot of times people are looking for the perfect person or the perfect rehab, but it's like, you can have Arnold Schwarzenegger be your personal trainer. If you don't do the work, it ain't gonna change your body.
A lot of people get people to sponsor them. That have a bunch
all
of
these teams. Yeah, they get a superstar sponsor.
They try to sit close to them, and
it's gonna osmosis rub on them.
Rub on them, and that's not the case.
Yeah, and it's like, I've struggled with that because I've jumped around from sponsor to sponsor, really looking for that right person. And what I realize is that I can have a sponsor and I can call anybody for anything if I because it's like, I used to look for the perfect person, not knowing that, hey, if my sponsor isn't the relationship guy, I can call the relationship guy about relationships. I could call the finance guy about the finance stuff. I can call the car guy about the car stuff. I could call the spiritual guy about the spiritual stuff. I don't need my sponsor to have it all together, you know?
That's what I love about my sponsor, because he taught me early in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I would call him and he wouldn't get the phone sometimes because he's busy. You know, he has a life, and I would get like,
Yeah.
does he know when I call he should get the phone? You know, I was all upset, and what he taught me was, you know, if he doesn't get the phone, you know, I can call you. If you don't get the phone, I call someone else.
Yeah.
And you know, if not, maybe I have to call on the God of my understandings for this help. But I'll tell you one thing: when I don't know what to do, what I do is I do nothing. I stay right where I'm at. I stay put. I look at my feet, and where my feet are at, that's where I need to be right now. Because my head will tell me, well, you're not where you want to be. You should be doing this. We'll go straighten this, go resolve this. And when I come to see, I'm off to the races. And I've seen it all. Listen, a lot of people, a lot of men and women, they mess up and they use, I don't have to. People are going to do it for me. And I've never seen nobody come to the program, accumulate clean time, live a better life, relapse, and come back and say, whoa, I just came here to see how you guys are doing. Here, let me drink some of that coffee. You know, they usually come in, you know, with some charges,
Beaten,
from an overdose, they, you know, almost nearly death, you know, something. So it's like, listen, I tell people all the time, if you don't fall in love with the program, you're not going to stay. If people aren't coming to you, calling you, giving you love, if they don't show you love, like, you're probably hanging out with the wrong people anyhow.
It's true. It's true with anything, you know, business. Like, if you don't fall in love with working, you ain't going to work out, you know what I mean? Or you got to fall in love with it. It's true. Because it's like, really loving something is the only thing that will push you past the need to do it, because after a while, you'll tell yourself you don't need to.
Listen, I love staying clean a day at a time, you know? I have jewelry, hats. Everything. Like I go to the conventions. I go to all the conventions.
The fellowship.
I love the fellowship. You know, I don't necessarily like everyone in the program, and I know the feeling's mutual, and I'm okay with that. I love me, and I know that because I don't pick up a day at a time, and I work the program to the best of my ability. Like, guess what? I went through one of the worst things that ever happened to me in this past year.
What happened? Like,
I got married. I had a wedding that a star would have. You know, it was a huge wedding. It was beautiful. It was and like 5 months after the wedding, like, we had to separate. And she ended up having to leave because I guess not, you know, whatever the case, it was a thing, and it had nothing to do with her. And I was devastated. She was devastated. And guess what? By communicating with men and women in the program, by me going to meetings regularly, by me praying about things, like I'm in a different place today. You know, she kept me on her insurance, and I was able to. I needed total knee replacement, and that was a big thing, a big surgery. I took no narcotics because of the program. Like, and I don't suggest it to everyone. If you need to take something because of a surgery and take it as prescribed, I look at it like, that's not my drug of choice, but it can be.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of other people fall in love with that drug. And I took nothing. I took ibuprofen. Whatever they gave me to put me unconscious, that's it. When I came to, I took no narcotic. And it was a little struggle, you know, I couldn't sleep. And listen, I walked fine. So that's one of the best things I did. And I did it without having to you know, take a
narcotic.
Yeah. It's a big thing for me.
What do you think, you know, someone who works in treatment and, you know, has dealt with so many people, what are some of the patterns that you see of people who don't stay clean? Because, like, for me, it's like easy for us to see it when it's not you, you know? And sometimes it's like, you know, it's frustrating. And, like, how do you deal with that?
So what I've learned throughout the years working in the field, right, because I started as a tech, behavioral health technician, you know, I wanted the clients and the program to be the way I think it should be, you know. And they told me, you're just a driver. Just drive the clients. I got offended with that. So I went back to school. Now I'm able to sit in a staff meeting. I'm able to point some things out, you know. But I don't take things personal. I try to the best that I can to not take it personal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to take things personal. And if they, you know, cause sometimes we got clients that just get angry, they're upset, they're in denial.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I know what lies ahead of it. You know, a lot of the people I deal with, you know, they've had multiple overdoses. They've turned blue. Like I say, look to your left, look to your right. One of you cats aren't going to be here by the end of this year. And we're in December.
Yeah.
Some people are going to be dead.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen a lot of people die from this incurable disease.
Yeah, and it's like when you work in treatment, you have real statistics. So it's like it's not
evident.
It's not a cliche. It's like when you work in treatment, you're like, damn, well, this is how many people were in treatment this time last year, and this is how many people are dead.
So the place that that you gave me that opportunity, I'm forever grateful because I've learned a lot throughout the years. There's a bunch of people that I met there that are no longer here.
Yeah.
And I know several of them, like 6 or 7, that are still clean.
Mm-hmm.
With years clean.
Yeah.
With years clean.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's like, it's what you put in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're going to get out.
Yeah.
And I can't take it personal.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't. Because, and I'll tell you another thing. Because when you're talking about that, from what I've seen as well, like working in the field, working in treatment, that's not my recovery.
Mm-hmm.
It enhances it, but it's not my recovery.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of therapists, behavioral health, they end up thinking they're saving and changing everyone's life, and they end up using, they end up dead.
Yeah, they end up being the dentist who don't brush their teeth.
Yeah, you know? So I let it be known that whatever I tell, a client or anyone in general, it applies to me as well, still to this day. And I'm coming up on 14 years, February 1st. And it's my clean time, they say clean time don't equal recovery. And I say, yeah, okay, get some, because, we accumulate clean
It matters.
time. Yeah, it does matter. It does matter.
It matters for sure. Because if you're not clean, you don't have a chance to recover. You don't have a chance to get better. And it's like, some people, all they have is clean time, and that's great. But it's like, without it, you couldn't even try to change, Because
I'll tell you one thing, it is an inside job. And I don't want to be that angry, miserable person, maybe even violent, cheating, like lying, like in recovery. I know people that have sold drugs in recovery, that lie, that cheat on their wife, kick the dog. Like, that's not me.
Yeah.
For that I use.
Yeah.
And just staying clean no matter what. Listen, if I'm not changing, I'm going to end up changing my clean date.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I love you very much. And it's always good to see you, man.
Good to see you. I love you.
Hey, thank you, Dom.